of continuing where we left this off a couple of weeks ago on the 1UP show. Finally talk about the rest of the game. We all beat single player a couple weeks ago.
One sitting too. There's times that I'm like, I'm gonna stop, and I'm like, no, gotta keep on trucking, gotta keep on trucking, and I was so proud of myself.
And I gotta say, the single player was pretty great. It's like longer than the first one.
Yeah.
Much more varied backdrops. They really mix things up a lot more. Plus, you get the new weapons and enemies. It really delivered, you know? It was totally satisfying. And then even like, they had to try to add some character to some of the guys, like Dom looking for his wife. It's kind of a little side quest. Yeah, and just like the gravity of the whole situation.
They definitely tried very hard to make it more of an emotional experience. I don't think it necessarily delivered as much as I know they wanted it to.
Yeah, it's more like a Michael Bay emotional experience where it's just boom, boom, boom. Oh, let's shed a tear or say like a Pep's talk or something.
For me, the story, even though I think the story's a little bit better, I still think it's confusing because they're obviously like, this is a long-term story, so they're not going to give you everything in every game. But to me, the parts where they try to be really serious, like with Dom, it almost felt like when a serious movie tries to be funny, you're kind of like, it's kind of awkward and jarring. You're looking at it and you're like, am I supposed to laugh? Because it's not really working. And like with this game, it's so over the top, it's so crazy, and it's so just bloody and gory. So when they try to be sentimental and like it's sad, it just kind of seems awkward. I'm like, am I supposed to be sad here? Because I'm kind of laughing. Because it's, I understand and I appreciate the fact that they're trying to like give the story a little bit more depth, but at the same time, it's just kind of funny. But that doesn't necessarily like take away from like how I felt about the game.
Yeah, because that said, I think the story was good enough and just interesting enough to make me want to keep going. Like, I did want to see what happened, and maybe it was more drawn by the levels themselves and the creativity. But the story was good enough to keep me interested, and that's really all it has to do. I just don't want to hate it.
And I do have to give them credit for taking a big risk. One of the most frustrating portions of the first game for me was the vehicular sequences. In particular, the one where you're driving around, you have to flash the light.
To kill the crow?
Yeah, but the fact is there are a lot of vehicular sequences in this game. And I think they're spaced out well where you're not beaten over the head with it. But when you kind of think about it, some of them work better than others. There's a couple sequences like with the tank. I thought the tank sequence worked fine until you end up on the ice. And when you have to like work your way across the ice,
that was so annoying.
Through. I found that really frustrating. For me, I died several times there. But then you have other sequences later in the game.
Like particularly the last sequence.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil it. I mean, people, if you watch the E3 footage, you've read previews, you know what's in there, but I don't want to spoil it.
It's a cherry. I'll just say it's like the cherry on top. Like, to me, like that particular sequence makes up for all the kind of a little bit frustrating vehicular sequences earlier in the game. Because like, if you had trouble with the tank or the turrets and you're kind of like, oh, you're kind of annoying, like this last one's just kind of like, you know what, we're just going to give you something that's like, you can't die and it's really fun.
No, totally.
Overpowered, kicking ass.
Totally
It's good. It's a good way to end it.
Now, obviously, most people spend most of their time with the original Gears on multiplayer, which had some significant problems.
Yeah. Well, I felt like almost like an afterthought. They put it in there because that was gonna be cool.
And like just a few modes.
Really, nothing creative. But this one, man, they really stepped it up. I mean, how about it's probably like 8 modes or so? Or?
Yeah, and the game ships with 10 standard levels. If you buy the game new, you can get 5 remade levels from the original game. And the jump from 4 to 5 players, I think, works really well because the levels on average are a little bit larger than they were in the first game. The multiplayer levels.
Yeah, I like all levels we played too. The levels are looking good. Like I love the avalanche one where it's just that snowy retreat. Yeah, you're just fighting, and then this wall of snow comes through, eliminating half your team. Yeah,
having this kind of wild card AI. Affecting the game, I think works really well. There's several levels like that. There's avalanche with the snow. There's hail. You have razor hail, which falls out of the sky and can take you out. You also have security, where there are these security turrets and like doors that you can only open at certain times, like stuff like that. It adds extra elements of kind of randomness.
Well, the fact that like the level itself can like kill players is actually kind of cool because especially when you're playing the avalanche level where you just flat out forget, and then it can wipe out literally half your team.
Yeah.
And like and you're just kind of like you can instantly win for doing nothing. It's kind of cool, and in a way it just makes the level more intense because once you hear that alarm, you're like, oh fuck, like get out of the way.
Yeah, everyone's running away.
Yeah.
So multiplayer is still a lot of fun.
Stuff.
Of course, like the big new addition is Horde mode, which is the 5-player co-op kind of survival mode, pretty much.
Endless waves.
Yeah, you have waves of enemies which spawn, and like every single map they spawn in different areas, and you have to just try to survive and move on. And you gain points. You have like a real-time scoreboard based on how many kills you down people, stuff like that.
Reviving. Yeah, and maybe not quite as much as Resistance co-op. You're so dependent on your other players, but you have to do a lot of teamwork here.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
you're
gonna get screwed because every 10 waves, there's 50 waves. The enemies get like increased damage and strength.
Yeah.
And so and they get harder too. You get like the blood mounts. Those guys are just vicious.
Oh
but
my
like
God.
you basically you have to within the first 10 seconds you have to develop a strategy.
Yeah.
We're gonna hold up here. We get these key weapons. We're gonna hold these shields and plant them. And then you just kind of pray that you're gonna live.
Yeah, and that way it's so stressful, but it's so much fun. And it took us 3 hours to beat Horde on normal difficulty. So I don't even want to think about how hard it would be on hardcore or insane.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like this could be like, if you don't want to play single player and you don't want to do multi, like this could take up your whole night.
I mean, I think we're all in agreement, but we all really like the game.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think it far surpasses the original game.
I mean, you can look at every category and it is better. It doesn't have the same impact when that game came out.
It's not as new. Yeah, I agree.
You can't have that same impact, but in every category, if you just stack it up, it's better. And overall, it's such a better experience.
There's so much variety and there's so much stuff that you're doing that like as a single, because I'm mostly a single player guy. Like to me, like that really made the game for me. The fact that like the single player is just so varied and so awesome, and then you add on to the fact that you got like the horde mode and all the multiplayer, and like it's such a good sequel. And it's not just like a sequel that like gives you a little bit more of the same. It gives you more of the same, but like with enough added stuff to like where you really don't feel like you're just getting like a half-ass sequel.
Greg, you were the lead reviewer on 1UP, so I know everyone's waiting. Go ahead and give us your review score and kind of tell us why you scored it the way you did.
Yeah, I gave it an A. It just, like I said, it kind of hit on every level. It just impressed me in the graphics, gameplay, all those things. But it was just like a fun experience. Like we played it for 2+ days, pretty much solid at this event. And when it was over next week, I was just talking. I'm like, I just wanted to keep on playing it. Like it totally hooked me in again. And I agree. Like I think I said this in my review. Like I think for this generation, that's one of the best gameplay hooks. The cover system and their stop and pop action. It's still very addictive, and the active reloading is still there. That still feels great. But all the new stuff they added, it just blew me away.
Sorry, but proper identification is required for entry. Good day.